Captain Jake stared at them with disbelief. The planet below them looked perfect. Blue oceans covered most of its surface and brown continents stretched between them. White clouds drifted across clear skies. Everything about it screamed life, everything except the sensor readings. "Run the scan again," Jake said to his science officer. Lisa shook her head. "I have run it 5 times already, Captain. The results are the same. There is nothing alive down there, not even bacteria." Jake leaned back in his chair. The exploration vessel Horizon had traveled 4 months to reach this system. Earth's deep space probes had detected the planet's perfect atmosphere from 20 light-years away. A world with oxygen and nitrogen in the exact ratios humans needed to breathe. Everyone assumed it meant alien life. Everyone was wrong. "How is that even possible?" asked Ben Hayes, the ship's pilot. "Where does the oxygen come from?" Lisa pulled up a chart on the main screen. "That is what makes no sense. Oxygen is reactive. It binds with other elements and disappears from an atmosphere within a few million years. The only reason Earth keeps its oxygen is because plants and algae constantly make more. But this planet has no plants, no algae, nothing." The geologist studied the planetary composition data. "The soil down there is rich in minerals. It should support plant life easily. But the surface scans show bare rock and dirt. No vegetation at all." "Could something have killed all the life recently?" Anderson, the medical officer, suggested. "A plague or disaster." "The atmosphere is too stable for that," Lisa replied. "If all life died recently, we would see signs of decay, chemical imbalances. This planet has been like this for thousands of years, maybe longer. It maintains a perfect living atmosphere with no life to sustain it." Jake made his decision. "We came here to investigate. Lisa, Ben, you are coming with me to the surface. You have command of the ship." Commander Foster nodded from his station. "Understood, Captain. We will maintain orbit and monitor your mission." 2 hours later, the landing shuttle broke through Eden 7's atmosphere. Ben guided them down toward a large clearing near one of the continent's central regions. Through the shuttle windows, the crew could see rivers cutting through empty landscapes. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks bare of snow or vegetation. "Air quality is perfect," announced, checking her instruments. "Temperature is 22 degrees, no toxins detected. We could breathe out there without suits." "We wear suits anyway," Jake ordered, "until we understand this place better." The shuttle touched down on smooth, dark soil. The landing kicked up a small cloud of dust that settled quickly in the still air. Jake was the first to step outside. His boots crunched on the ground. He looked around at a world that should be teeming with life but held only silence. The others followed him out. Lisa immediately began taking soil samples while examined the rock formations nearby, set up atmospheric monitoring equipment. Ben stayed near the shuttle, running diagnostic checks. "Captain, look at this," called out. He stood near a formation of large boulders. "These rocks are arranged in a perfect circle. The spacing is too regular to be natural." Jake walked over to examine the stones. Was right. 12 large boulders formed a ring about 30 meters across. The ground inside the circle was smoother than the surrounding area, as if it had been deliberately cleared. "There are more circles like this," Lisa said, checking the orbital scan data on her tablet. "Hundreds of them across this continent, all identical in size and spacing." Jake knelt and touched the ground inside the stone circle. The soil felt warm under his gloved hand. Not hot, just warmer than it should be. He stood and walked to the center of the circle. Something felt different here. A faint sensation, like a low vibration he could feel in his chest rather than hear with his ears. "Are you picking up any energy readings?" he asked Lisa. She pointed her scanner at the circle. "Nothing on standard frequencies. Wait, there is something very faint coming from deep underground, several kilometers down. It is barely detectable." The team spent the next several hours exploring the area around the landing site. They found more stone circles, all identical. They found riverbeds with perfectly clear water flowing through them. They found soil that should grow plants easily. But they found no life. Not a single blade of grass, not one insect, not even mold or fungus. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, they set up their base camp near the first stone circle. The environmental tent deployed quickly, giving them a pressurized shelter where they could remove their suits. "This place is beautiful," said, looking out through the tent's transparent wall. But it feels wrong, like a painting instead of a real place. Jake understood what she meant. Eden 7 was too perfect, too clean. Nature was messy and chaotic. This world felt arranged, almost artificial in its perfection. They ate a simple meal from their supplies and reviewed the day's findings. The data only raised more questions. Lisa had analyzed dozens of soil samples. Everyone showed ideal conditions for supporting life, had examined the geological formations and found no signs of recent catastrophe. The planet was stable, peaceful, and completely dead. "I recommend we extend our surface mission," Lisa said. "We need more time to understand this anomaly." Jake agreed. "We will stay down here for at least a week, can handle the ship. Our mission is to figure out what this planet is and why it exists." That night, Jake lay in his sleeping bag inside the tent. Through the transparent ceiling, he could see Eden 7's sky filled with unfamiliar stars. Two small moons hung in the darkness, casting silver light across the barren landscape. He drifted into sleep slowly, his mind still puzzling over the mystery of the lifeless world. But his dreams were not his own. Jake found himself standing on the same planet, but it was different. Cities stretched across the horizon, their towers reaching toward the sky. Gardens filled with strange plants surrounded him. Beings moved through the streets, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like pearls. Then the vision shifted. The beings gathered in vast assemblies. They spoke a language Jake should not understand, but somehow he knew their words. They were dying. A plague had come to their world, something that would kill them all. But worse, the plague could spread to other worlds if they tried to escape. So they made a choice. They would not flee. They would not risk spreading death to the galaxy. Instead, they would end themselves and cleanse their world completely. Every microbe, every plant, every animal would be erased. Better to leave an empty paradise than a contaminated graveyard. But they left something behind, a gift hidden deep within their planet's core. Knowledge encoded in energy patterns that ordinary sensors could not detect. A complete blueprint of life itself, waiting for beings worthy of receiving it. Waiting for those who would nurture rather than exploit. Waiting for guardians. Jake woke with a gasp. His heart pounded in his chest. The dream had felt more real than any dream should. He sat up and looked around the tent. He slept peacefully. Everything appeared normal. Jake woke before dawn with knowledge burning in his mind. He knew exactly what minerals the soil needed. He understood how the planet's atmosphere stayed balanced. Information flowed through his thoughts as naturally as breathing, except he had never learned any of it. He sat up carefully, trying not to wake the others. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled on his boots. The dream had not faded like normal dreams do. Instead, it had settled into his memory as solid fact. He remembered the ancient civilization as if he had lived among them. He knew their purpose as if they had spoken to him directly. Stirred in her sleeping bag and opened her eyes. She looked at Jake with an expression of wonder and confusion. "Captain, I had the strangest dream. There were people here once, and they chose to die rather than spread a sickness to other worlds." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "Tell me more." "They removed every living thing from the planet," continued, sitting up. "But they left something behind, a gift, instructions for how to bring the world back to life." She paused, touching her temple. "And I know things now, medical knowledge about alien biology I should not understand. It is all just there in my head." One by one, the others woke. Each described the same vision. Each reported new knowledge they could not explain, understood the planet's geology in perfect detail. Lisa grasped complex atmospheric systems she had never studied. Ben comprehended weather patterns and ecological balance with complete certainty. "This is not possible," Lisa said, but even as she spoke, she ran her scanner over her own head. "Our neural patterns have changed, all of us. New pathways formed during the night, but there is no damage, no infection, just alteration." Jake made a decision. "We need to contact the Horizon, needs to know what happened." The communication link crackled to life. Foster's face appeared on the small screen, his expression shifting from calm to concerned as Jake explained their situation. "You are saying an alien intelligence your brains while you slept?" asked carefully. "Not," Jake corrected. "Given knowledge, like uploading information to a computer, except we are still completely ourselves. We just know things we did not know before." "I am ordering an immediate medical evacuation," said. "This could be dangerous." "Commander, wait," interrupted. I have scanned all of us thoroughly. There is no danger, no compulsion. We are not being controlled. We have simply been taught. Taught what exactly? Demanded. Spoke up. How to awaken this world. The ancient civilization that lived here left instructions encoded in the planet's energy field. Those instructions transferred to us when we slept near the stone circle. Lisa added, the circles are not just markers. They are access points. The knowledge is stored deep underground in some kind of crystalline matrix. When we camped near the circle, it activated and shared what it contained. That sounds like something hostile, argued, forcing information into your minds without permission. It did not force anything, Jake said. It offered, we accepted by being here, by being open to understanding this place. And now we know what Eden 7 truly is. It is not just a dead planet. It is a seed waiting to grow. On the screen, looked unconvinced. I am sending down the medical team to evaluate you. No arguments, Captain. Protocol requires it. Jake nodded. He understood caution. What they were describing sounded insane. But he also knew with absolute certainty that they were not in danger. The knowledge felt right, like remembering something forgotten rather than learning something new. While they waited for the medical team, Jake felt compelled to act on his new understanding. He walked to the edge of the stone circle and knelt beside the barren soil. His hands moved without conscious thought, scooping up the dark earth and letting it run through his fingers. The mineral balance is wrong, he said aloud. There is too much iron oxide and not enough phosphorus. The soil needs adjustment before it can support the first microorganisms. Joined him. The base rock composition is perfect, though. We could use the ship's mineral processors to create the right supplements. Mix them into the top layer of soil across this region. And I know which microorganisms to introduce first, said. Simple nitrogen-fixing bacteria from Earth's database. They will prepare the ground for more complex life. Lisa was already calculating. If we start here and work outward in a grid pattern, we could prepare 1,000 square kilometers in 2 weeks. Then we introduce the bacteria and let them spread naturally. They were actually planning to terraform a planet based on knowledge that had been placed in their minds by an extinct alien species. Jake realized how mad it sounded, but every instinct he had told him it was right. This was what Eden 7 needed. This was what it had been waiting for. The medical shuttle landed an hour later. Dr. Kate Palmer emerged with her team, scanning equipment ready. She spent 3 hours examining each member of the landing party, running every test she could think of. Your brain activity is unusual, she finally admitted. But you are healthy. Actually, you are healthier than before. Neural efficiency has increased across all measured areas. Whatever happened to you seems to have been beneficial. Then you will clear us to continue the mission? Jake asked. Kate hesitated. I will recommend continued observation, but yes, you are fit for duty. However, I want someone from my team to stay down here and monitor you daily. Agreed, Jake said. Was less easily convinced when Kate reported her findings. Just because they are physically healthy does not mean we should let them start altering an entire planet based on alien programming. But even as he spoke, the ship's sensors detected something new. Amy, the sensor officer, called out from her station. Commander, I am reading changes on the planet's surface. The energy signature near the landing site is intensifying. Pulled up the sensor data. The faint underground energy readings Lisa had detected were growing stronger. More stone circles across the continent were activating, their signals spreading like a web beneath the surface. What is happening down there? Demanded over the comm link. Jake checked his own instruments. He could feel it too, a growing presence in the back of his mind. The planet knows we are ready. It is opening access to more knowledge, not forcing it, just making it available. I am coming down there myself, decided. I need to see this with my own eyes. When shuttle landed that afternoon, Jake met him at the stone circle. The commander stepped out of his ship and paused. Even from a distance, he could feel the faint vibration in the air. Jake led him to the center of the circle. Stand here for a moment, just listen, not with your ears, but with your mind. Looked skeptical, but did as Jake suggested. He stood in the circle's center and closed his eyes. Seconds passed. Then his expression changed. His eyes opened wide with sudden understanding. I can feel it, whispered. The knowledge, it is offering itself to me. All I have to do is accept. The choice is yours, Jake said. We are not forcing anyone, But if you want to understand what we experienced, what we know now, you can have it too. Stood silent for a long moment. Then he relaxed and let his mind open to the flow of information. Jake watched as his friend's face went through the same journey they had all experienced. Confusion, wonder, understanding, and finally purpose. When opened his eyes again, he was changed. Not controlled, not damaged, but expanded. They were noble, he said softly. The beings who lived here, they could have fled and tried to survive, but they chose sacrifice to protect others. They chose to leave their world as a gift instead of a grave. And now that gift is ours, Jake said. If we choose to accept it, if we choose to become what this planet needs. Looked around at the empty landscape, but now he saw it differently. He saw potential. He saw the forests that could grow, the animals that could live, the entire ecosystem waiting to be born from careful human hands. We need to contact Earth, said. And the Galactic Council, this is bigger than just our crew. This decision will affect all of humanity. I know, Jake agreed. But we also need to decide what we want to say, because once we tell them about Eden 7, everyone will want it. Governments will want to claim it. Corporations will want to exploit it. Scientists will want to study it. And all of that could destroy what this place is meant to become. Lisa joined them. The knowledge shows us that other dead worlds exist across the galaxy, worlds left by civilizations that chose the same path, each one waiting for guardians. This is not just about Eden 7. It is about what humanity chooses to be. Ben and approached from the camp, their faces serious, walked behind them. They all understood the weight of what came next. The message reached Earth 3 days later. Jake had carefully worded the report, describing its unique nature and the knowledge the crew had received. He emphasized the responsibility rather than the opportunity. He spoke of guardianship rather than colonization. Earth's response came back within hours, and it was not unified. The United Earth government immediately claimed the planet under colonial expansion laws. 3 major corporations filed competing mineral rights requests. The scientific community demanded unrestricted research access. And the Galactic Council, which humanity had joined only 5 years earlier, issued a formal quarantine order until they could investigate. Jake sat in the Horizon's command center, reading through the flood of messages with growing frustration. They are treating this like any other discovery. They do not understand what this place is. Or they understand perfectly and do not care, Lisa said bitterly. She scrolled through a corporate proposal that outlined mining operations for Eden 7's mineral wealth. Henderson Industries is offering us each 10 million credits to support their development claim. They want to strip mine a world that is meant to bloom with life, said. We cannot let that happen. Pulled up the Galactic Council's quarantine order. This might actually help us. The Council's authority supersedes Earth's colonial laws. No one can touch Eden 7 while the quarantine is in effect. But quarantines are temporary, pointed out. Eventually, they will send investigators, make a decision, and then the planet gets divided up among whoever has the best lawyers. Ben turned from his station. What if we just refuse to leave, stay down there, and continue the work we started? That would be mutiny, said carefully. We are still a military crew under Earth government authority. Are we? Jake asked. Or are we something else now, guardians of a trust left by a civilization that died to protect others? Does Earth's authority override that responsibility? The debate continued through the night. The crew was divided. Some wanted to follow regulations and let the authorities sort out Eden 7's fate. Others felt the knowledge they had received created an obligation that transcended human politics. The situation grew more complicated when a corporate survey ship entered the system. The vessel belonged to Stellar Extraction Corporation, one of the biggest mining companies in human space. They had filed their claim faster than anyone else and sent a ship to back it up. Martinez, the corporation's regional director, contacted the Horizon directly. His face appeared on the friendly but firm. Captain, I am here to establish Stellar Extraction's preliminary survey operation on Eden 7. I understand your crew has been conducting initial assessments. We would appreciate your cooperation. The planet is under Galactic Council quarantine, Jake replied. No operations are authorized. Smiled, the Council's quarantine is still being processed through proper channels. Until it is officially filed and recognized by Earth government, it has no legal standing. We are operating within our rights under colonial law. This is not a normal planet, Jake said. It requires careful handling. Which is why we are bringing proper equipment and trained personnel, countered. Your exploration vessel is not equipped for planetary development. We are. Now, are you going to cooperate, or do we need to involve Fleet Command? Muted the communication link. He has a point, Captain. Legally, they can operate until the quarantine is formally recognized. That could take weeks. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Below them, Eden 7 waited. The landing team had already begun introducing the first microorganisms into prepared soil. Tiny, fragile bacteria that would start the long process of creating a living world. A corporate mining operation would destroy that work in hours. He made a decision that would change everything. Tell Martinez that if he attempts to land on Eden 7, we will prevent it by force if necessary. The command center went silent, stared at Jake in shock. Captain, you are talking about firing on a civilian vessel. That is an act of war. I am talking about protecting something more important than corporate profits, Jake said. Send the message. Hesitated, then unmuted the link. Director Martinez, Captain has ordered me to inform you that any attempt to land on Eden 7 will be met with defensive action. His friendly expression vanished. You are threatening to attack a legally authorized corporate operation. I will have you court-martialed for this, all of you. Then court-martial me, Jake replied, but you are not landing on that planet. The communication ended. Ship remained in orbit but made no move to deploy shuttles. They were calling Jake's bluff, seeing if he would really follow through. Made her way to the command center. Captain, we need to go public with this. If Earth and the corporations know what Eden 7 truly represents, maybe they will understand. The government knows, Lisa said. I sent them complete data on the ancient civilization and their gift. They acknowledged receipt and filed it as a cultural curiosity. They do not care about the deeper meaning. Then we make everyone care, said. We broadcast directly to Earth's public networks, tell the whole story, let people decide what kind of species they want to be. Jake considered the idea. It was risky. Broadcasting without authorization would be another violation of protocol, but was right. The decision about Eden 7 should not be made by politicians and corporations alone. Every human had a stake in what humanity would become. Do it, he ordered. Open channel to all public networks, no restrictions. Moved to the communications console and began setting up the broadcast. She looked at Jake. You should be the one to speak, Captain. This was your discovery. Jake shook his head. No, you speak. Medical officer, scientist, someone who can explain this clearly, make them understand. Nodded and activated the broadcast. Her face would now be appearing on screens across Earth and every human colony. Billions of people about to hear a message they were not expecting. My name is Dr. Anderson, she began. I am medical officer aboard the exploration vessel Horizon. 3 weeks ago, we discovered a planet that should not exist. Eden 7 has a perfect atmosphere, but no life. We went down to investigate and learn the truth. An ancient alien civilization once lived there. When a plague threatened to kill them and spread to other worlds, they made a choice. They chose to die rather than risk spreading death across the galaxy. She paused, letting that sink in. But they did not leave just a dead world. They left a gift. Encoded deep in the planet is complete knowledge of how to bring it back to life. How to create forests, oceans full of fish, animals running across continents. An entire living world waiting to be born. They left this gift for whoever found it, but only if those beings proved worthy. Only if they chose to nurture rather than exploit. His voice grew stronger. Right now, corporations want to mine Eden 7 for profits. Politicians want to claim it for territory, but that is not what this planet is for. The beings who died there left us a test, a choice. Do we take what we can from their sacrifice, or do we honor it by becoming guardians of the life they could not save? She looked directly into the camera. I have stood on Eden 7. I have felt the knowledge those ancient people left behind. I have seen the future that planet could become if we protect it. We humans have spent centuries taking from the galaxy. Here is our chance to give something back. To show the older civilizations that we are not just consumers and conquerors. We can be caretakers. We can be guardians. Took a breath. I am asking everyone watching this to demand that Eden 7 be protected. Contact your representatives. Tell them this planet is not a resource to exploit. It is a responsibility to honor. The Galactic Council is watching how we handle this. Our response will determine how they see humanity for generations. Please help us choose wisely. The broadcast ended, slumped in her chair, exhausted. I hope that was enough. It was perfect, Jake said. Within hours, the response was overwhelming. Social networks across Earth exploded with discussion about Eden 7. Images had included in her broadcast of the beautiful, empty planet spread everywhere. Billions of people saw the potential for life waiting to bloom. Public opinion shifted rapidly. People contacted their governments demanding Eden 7 be protected. Scientists in support of guardianship over exploitation. Even some corporate leaders began withdrawing their claims, not wanting to be seen as villains destroying an alien gift. But not everyone agreed. Martinez broadcast his own message, arguing that humanity needed resources more than symbolic gestures. Some politicians supported him, claiming Earth's growing population required new worlds to develop. The debate raged across every news channel. Then the Galactic Council responded. Ambassador Sophie Blake, Earth's representative to the Council, sent an urgent message to the horizon. Captain, the Council has accelerated their review of Eden 7. They are sending me to mediate this situation personally. I will arrive in 4 days. Until then, please maintain the status. No mining operations, but also no further terraforming work. Can you agree to that? Jake looked at his crew. They had already introduced bacteria into Eden 7's soil. The transformation had begun, slowly but irreversibly. Stopping now felt wrong. But Sophie Blake was humanity's best diplomat. If anyone could negotiate a solution that protected Eden 7 while keeping Earth in good standing with the Council, it was her. We agree, Jake said. We will wait for your arrival. Ambassador Sophie Blake stepped off her shuttle onto Eden 7's surface with practiced grace. She was a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair and sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. For 7 years, she had represented humanity in the Galactic Council, navigating complex politics between dozens of alien species. Jake and Lisa met her at the landing site. The stone circle stood nearby, its ancient rocks holding secrets Sophie did not yet know. Thank you for waiting, Sophie said, shaking their hands. I know the delay was difficult. The Council moves slowly, but they take situations like this seriously. What exactly did they tell you about Eden 7? Jake asked. That you found a dead world with a mysterious atmosphere and claim to have received alien knowledge, Sophie replied. They are concerned about potential contamination or psychological manipulation. The Council has seen many strange phenomena across the galaxy. Not all of them were benign. Lisa gestured toward the stone circle. The knowledge is real, Ambassador, and it was not forced on us. It was offered. If you want to truly understand what we are protecting, you should experience it yourself. Sophie looked at the circle with scientific curiosity. The Council specifically instructed me not to expose myself to unknown influences until we complete our investigation. Then you will never understand, Jake said simply. You can study Eden 7 from orbit, run tests, file reports, but until you feel what this place is, you will just be guessing about what should happen here. Sophie considered this. She had not survived 7 years of galactic politics by being overly cautious. Sometimes you needed to take risks to find truth. If I do this, and the knowledge does transfer, what should I expect? Information, Lisa said. The history of the people who lived here, their final choice, and the understanding of how to awaken this world to life again. It does not control you, it simply teaches you. And you all experienced this the same way. Every person who stands in the circle and opens themselves to it receives the knowledge, Jake confirmed. 6 of our crew so far, all of them report the same visions, the same information. Sophie made her decision. Very well, show me. They led her to the center of the stone circle. The ambassador stood quietly for a moment, her eyes closed. Jake watched as her expression changed from concentration to wonder to deep sadness. When she opened her eyes again, tears ran down her cheeks. They were so brave, Sophie whispered. They knew they would die. They knew their entire civilization would vanish, but they chose it anyway to protect species they had never met. Now do you understand why we cannot let corporations mine this world? Lisa asked, gently. Sophie nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes, but I also understand something else, something you may not have realized yet. She looked around at the empty landscape. The Council has encountered worlds like this before. Jake felt surprise and curiosity. There are other dead worlds with gifts like Eden 7. 17 that we know of, Sophie said. Scattered across the galaxy, left by different civilizations at different times. Each one holds knowledge of how to restore itself. Each one waits for a species worthy of becoming its guardian. What happened to those other worlds? Lisa asked. Sophie's expression darkened. Most were exploited. Species found them, received the knowledge, and chose profit over stewardship. They mined the minerals, ignored the gift, and moved on. 3 of the worlds were partially restored, but the civilizations that started the work eventually abandoned them when easier opportunities appeared elsewhere. And the Galactic Council allowed that? Jake asked, anger rising in his voice. The Council cannot force species to be better than they are, Sophie replied. We can advise, mediate, and discourage, but ultimately each species makes its own choices, and most choose short-term gain over long-term responsibility. She paused. But there is one species that made a different choice. They found a dead world 4,000 years ago. They committed themselves to restoring it completely. That work took 16 centuries, but now that world is one of the most beautiful in the galaxy. They are respected across all Council space because of what they chose to become. Jake understood. You are saying that how humanity handles Eden 7 will determine how other species see us for centuries. Exactly, Sophie confirmed. If we exploit this planet, we prove we are just another short-sighted young species. But if we commit to guardianship, if we see this through to the end even though it will take generations, we show that humanity has the wisdom and patience to be true equals in the galactic community. Lisa pulled up data on her tablet. The transformation has already begun. We introduced nitrogen-fixing bacteria into prepared soil. They are spreading naturally. Within a month, they will have prepared enough ground to support the first algae. Within a year, we could have plant life. And you understand this from the knowledge you received? Sophie asked. The ancient architects left detailed blueprints, Lisa explained. Not just random information, but a complete ecological plan. Every step builds on the previous one. First bacteria to enrich soil, then simple plants, then more complex vegetation, then insects, then animals. Each phase takes time, and rushing it would collapse the whole system. Sophie walked to the edge of the circle, looking out across the barren landscape. How long would full restoration take? Minimum 70 years, Jake said. More likely a century or more. This is not a quick colony project. It is a multi-generational commitment. That is a long time, Sophie said softly. Longer than most corporate or political interest spans. Which is why this cannot be a corporate or political project, Jake argued. It needs to be protected by international treaty and council oversight. A world set aside specifically for restoration, with humanity as its guardians. Sophie turned back to them. I can propose that to the council, create a new classification. Guardian worlds, protected by treaty, overseen by dedicated teams from the species that found them. But I need to know that humanity is truly committed, that you will not start this work and abandon it when the next exciting discovery comes along. How do we prove that? Lisa asked. By starting now, Sophie said. I can delay the council decision for 6 months. During that time, you gather volunteers, build a permanent settlement, begin the restoration work in earnest, show that humans are willing to commit their lives to this. Then, when I present the proposal to the council, I can point to actual progress, not just promises. Jake felt hope rising. You would support this, even though it means telling Earth that they cannot claim Eden 7 for standard colonization. I am Earth's ambassador, but I am also a human being, Sophie said. And after feeling what this place is, after understanding the choice those ancient people made, I know what the right path is. Will there be opposition? Absolutely. Martinez and Stellar Extraction will fight this. Some politicians will call it a waste of resources, but I think the public support generated with her broadcast will carry the day. She pulled out a communication device. I am going to call a formal mediation session. You, me, Martinez, and representatives from Earth government. We will negotiate terms. I will push for the Guardian World classification. It will not be easy, but I believe we can make it work. The mediation took place aboard Sophie's ship, in a conference room designed for diplomatic negotiations. Martinez arrived with 3 lawyers and a threat assessment specialist. The Earth government sent 2 officials who seemed more interested in ending the controversy than finding the best solution. Started aggressively. This entire situation is absurd. Captain has committed multiple violations of military protocol. He has threatened civilian vessels, broadcast unauthorized messages, and now he wants to tie up an entire planet for a feel-good project that will produce nothing of value for decades. Eden 7 will produce life, Jake countered. Forests, animals, an entire ecosystem that has value beyond any mineral deposit. Theoretical value, shot back. Based on alien programming that you admittedly do not fully understand, you are asking humanity to sacrifice real, tangible resources for a dream. Sophie interrupted calmly. Director Martinez, have you experienced the knowledge transfer yourself? I have no interest in letting an alien intelligence alter my brain, said sharply. Then you are making decisions about something you do not understand, Sophie replied. I have experienced it. The knowledge is real, specific, and remarkably detailed. The ancient civilization did not leave vague hopes. They left precise instructions. One of the Earth officials spoke up. Even if we accept that the restoration is possible, the cost would be enormous. Building a settlement, supporting a population for decades or centuries, all while producing no economic return. How do we justify that expense? By thinking beyond quarterly profit reports, Lisa said. Every great human achievement required long-term commitment. The pyramids took decades to build. Cathedrals took centuries. Some projects are about legacy, not immediate return. Those are monuments, the official countered. This is an entire planet. Exactly, Jake said. An entire planet that we can transform from dead rock into thriving life. Can you imagine anything more valuable than that? Can you imagine a better legacy for humanity? The debate continued for hours, argued economics and practicality. Sophie countered with long-term strategic thinking and galactic politics. The Earth officials tried to find middle ground, suggesting compromises that would allow limited mining while also supporting some restoration work. But Jake refused to compromise. Either we commit to this completely, or we do not do it at all. The ecosystem is too delicate for partial efforts. Mining operations would disrupt the soil preparation. Industrial activity would contaminate the atmosphere we are trying to balance. It has to be all or nothing. Finally, Sophie played her strongest card. The Galactic Council has indicated they would consider humanity's choice regarding Eden 7 as a test of our species' maturity. If we choose guardianship, it would accelerate our application for full council membership, including access to restricted technologies and trade routes. If we choose exploitation, we remain probationary members for at least another decade, possibly longer. The Earth officials sat up. Full council membership meant significant economic and political advantages. Suddenly, the equation changed. Protecting Eden 7 was not just about one planet. It was about humanity's entire future in galactic society. You are certain about this? One official asked. I have it in writing from 3 senior council members, Sophie confirmed. They want to see if humanity can think beyond immediate gain. Eden 7 is our chance to prove we can. Saw the shift in the room and changed tactics. Fine. Stellar extraction withdraws our mining claim, but we want first rights to ecological engineering contracts for the restoration work. Our equipment, our personnel, under supervision of whatever guardian organization gets established. Jake wanted to refuse, but Sophie caught his eye and gave a small nod. A compromise, not ideal, but acceptable. Agreed, Jake said. As long as all work follows the restoration plans exactly. No shortcuts, no profit-driven alterations to the ecosystem. Nodded deal. The Earth officials conferred quietly, then announced their decision. Earth government will S5 years had passed since the day Jake first stood in a stone circle and received the knowledge of Eden 7. Now he stood on a hill overlooking New Haven, the settlement that had grown from a few temporary tents into a thriving community of 3,000 people. But the real transformation was not the human settlement, it was the world itself. Where once barren soil stretched endlessly, now forests of young trees covered the hillsides. The trees were a mix of Earth species and carefully engineered variants designed by the ancient architects. Their leaves were slightly blue-green, adapted to Eden 7's specific light spectrum. They grew quickly, pulling carbon from the air and pumping oxygen back, accelerating the atmospheric improvements. Below the forests, grasslands spread across valleys, real grass brought from Earth but modified to thrive in soil. Animals grazed there too, sheep and cattle from Earth adapting well to their new home. In another year, they would introduce the first native herbivores, creatures designed by the ancient civilization but now brought to life by human genetic engineers following the blueprints. Rivers that had run clear and lifeless now teemed with fish. Simple species at first, but each year they introduced more complex varieties. Lisa, now Director of Ecological Development, oversaw every introduction with careful precision. Rush the process and the ecosystem would collapse. Follow the plan exactly, and Eden 7 would bloom. Jake walked down the hill toward New Haven's Central Plaza. The settlement was unlike any human colony he had ever seen. Every building was designed to work with nature rather than against it. Solar panels provided all power needs without touching the planet's surface. Water was recycled completely. Waste was processed into nutrients for the growing forests. The people who lived here understood they were guests on a world that was being born. They trod lightly, took only what they needed, and gave back more than they took. Anderson met him in the plaza. She had married Ben Hayes 2 years ago, and they now had a daughter. Little Emma was the first human child born on Eden 7, though dozens more had followed. These children would grow up knowing only this world, seeing its transformation as normal life. The northern forest is ready for the first bird introduction, reported. We have been preparing 300 nests with eggs from Earth species. In 6 months, we will have our first bird songs. Jake smiled. I remember when this place was silent, just wind and our footsteps. Now listen. They paused, insects buzzed in the grass. Leaves rustled in the trees, a cow lowed in the distance. Water gurgled in a nearby stream, the sounds of life growing stronger every day. Sophie sent a message, continued. The Galactic Council approved humanity's application for full membership. We are no longer probationary. She says our work here was a major factor in the decision. We proved we could commit to something bigger than ourselves, Jake said. That is what they wanted to see. Approached, his clothes dirty from working in the soil. The geologist had become the settlement's agricultural coordinator, helping farmers understand Eden 7's unique geology. Captain, I mean Director, we have a problem. One of the corporate survey teams working on the southern continent found something. Jake felt concern. Stellar Extraction still had personnel on Eden 7, fulfilling their contract to provide equipment and support. They had mostly followed the rules, but tensions occasionally flared. What did they find? Another set of stone circles, said. But these are different, larger, and they are detecting much stronger energy readings than the ones we found first. Show me, Jake said. They took a shuttle south, flying over forests and grasslands that had not existed 5 years ago. The transformation was visible even from the air, green spreading across brown, life-conquering barrenness. The corporate team had set up a perimeter around the new stone circles. Martinez was there personally, looking both excited and nervous. He had changed over the years. Working on Eden 7 had affected him too, though he never admitted it. He still cared about profits, but he also seemed to care about the planet now. Greeted him, look at this. The stone circles were enormous, each boulder the size of a house. 12 of them formed a ring 300 meters across. In the center, the ground glowed faintly with blue light. Jake approached carefully. He could feel the energy from 50 meters away, stronger than anything the smaller circles had produced. Have you entered the circle? We were waiting for you, said. Whatever this is, it seems important. Thought the official guardians should handle it. Jake appreciated that. He stepped into the circle with Lisa and following. The energy intensified as they reached the center. Jake felt the familiar sensation of knowledge beginning to flow, but this was different, deeper, more profound. Visions filled his mind, not of Eden 7's past, but of other worlds, dead planets scattered across the galaxy, each one holding similar gifts. He saw their locations, their conditions, their potential. 17 worlds, just as Sophie had said. But the knowledge showed more than locations. It showed why. The ancient civilizations had not acted alone. They had been part of a network, a conspiracy of the dying to help the living. Each civilization that faced extinction had made the same choice. Rather than rage against death, they prepared gifts for those who would come after. Gifts that would test whether younger species had wisdom to match their technology. They left a roadmap, Lisa whispered, seeing the same visions. Not just for Eden 7, but for all the dead worlds, a test across the entire galaxy. Jake understood. Humanity's success with Eden 7 was just the beginning. If they proved themselves here, they could be trusted with the other worlds. They could become guardians not of one planet, but of many. They could transform death into life across the stars. When the vision faded, Jake found himself on his knees in the grass. The others looked equally overwhelmed, stood outside the circle, watching with confused concern. "What happened?" asked. "We just got our next assignment," Jake said, climbing to his feet. "There are 16 more worlds like Eden 7 waiting for guardians. The ancient civilizations left them for us to find, to restore, to protect." His eyes widened. 16 more? That is incredible. The resources required, the coordination needed, the sheer scale of it. "Yes," Jake agreed. "Which is why we cannot do it alone. We need help. From Earth, from the Council, from anyone willing to commit to this work." Over the next weeks, Jake and his team compiled everything the vision had shown them. They created maps of the dead worlds, detailed reports on their conditions, and preliminary restoration plans. They sent it all to Sophie Blake, who presented it to the Galactic Council. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Other species wanted to help. The who had restored their own dead world centuries ago offered expertise and guidance. The master geneticists volunteered to help engineer organisms for different planetary conditions. Even species humanity had never worked with before reached out, wanting to be part of something larger than politics or profit. The Planetary Restoration Corps was born from those offers, an organization spanning multiple species, dedicated to awakening dead worlds across the galaxy. Humans would lead the effort, having proven themselves on Eden 7, but they would not work alone. Jake stood in New Haven's plaza 5 months later, watching the first graduating class of Guardian trainees prepare to leave. 200 humans and aliens, trained in ecology, genetics, planetary science, and the philosophy of guardianship. They would travel to the second dead world, a planet the Ancient had left in a distant system. Amy, who had left the horizon to join the Corps, would lead that mission. She wore the Guardian uniform with pride, a simple green jumpsuit with the Corps emblem on the shoulder, a tree growing from cupped hands, symbolizing life given freely. "Nervous?" Jake asked her. "Terrified," Amy admitted, "but also excited. We get to do for another world what you did here. We get to bring life to emptiness." "Remember the most important lesson," Jake said. "Patience. The work takes time. Trust the process. Trust the knowledge the Ancient Ones left, and trust your team." Amy nodded. "We will make you proud, Director." Jake watched her shuttle lift off, carrying Guardians to their new mission. Around him, Eden 7 continued its transformation. Birds would arrive next month. The first large mammals would be introduced next year. In 10 years, the forests would be mature enough to support a full ecosystem. In 50 years, the planet would be nearly complete. But Jake would not see the end. He was 52 years old now. Even if he lived another 40 years, he would witness only the middle of Eden 7's rebirth. His children would see more. His might see the planet fully alive. That was the hardest part of being a guardian, knowing you would never see the completion of what you started. But it was also the most important part. True guardianship meant committing to something beyond your own lifetime, caring for something that would outlive you. Lisa joined him, holding her grandson. Little was only 3 months old, but he would grow up in the forests his grandmother had planted. He would play in rivers his parents had filled with life. He would breathe air that humans had helped balance. "Do you ever regret it?" Lisa asked. "Walking into that first stone circle, everything that came after." Jake thought about the question seriously. 5 years ago, he had been a simple exploration captain, following orders and mapping new systems. Now he was responsible for an entire world's rebirth and the beginning of a galactic restoration program. The burden was heavy. But he looked at the forest spreading across the hills. He listened to the insects and birds and rustling leaves. He smelled life in the air, rich and complex. He saw children playing in grass where nothing had grown for thousands of years. "No," he said finally, "I do not regret it at all." That night, Jake stood alone in the original stone circle where it had all begun. The stars wheeled overhead, familiar constellations mixed with new patterns unique to Eden 7's sky. Somewhere out there, Amy and her team traveled toward the second dead world. Others would follow to the third, the fourth, and beyond. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or merchants, but as gardeners. They would find the silent worlds and wake them to song. They would take responsibility for the gifts the Ancient Ones had left. They would prove worthy of the trust placed in them by beings who had chosen death over destruction. The knowledge had transformed Jake 5 years ago, but the work had transformed humanity itself. They were becoming what the galaxy needed them to be. Not perfect, not without flaws, but dedicated to something greater than themselves. Guardians. Jake touched the nearest stone, feeling its warmth. "Thank you," he whispered to the long-dead civilization that had left this gift. "We will honor what you gave us. We will bring life to all the places you prepared. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." The stone seemed to pulse with faint light, acknowledging his promise. Or perhaps it was just his imagination. Either way, Jake felt at peace. The work would continue long after he was gone. That was what mattered. That was what being a guardian meant. He walked back to New Haven under stars, leaving the stone circle to its ancient silence. Around him, a living world grew stronger with each passing day. And somewhere in the galaxy, 16 more worlds waited patiently for their guardians to arrive. The gift would be honored. The dead worlds would bloom. And humanity would prove that even young species could learn wisdom, could choose responsibility over exploitation, could become worthy of the trust placed in them by those who came before. Eden 7 had transformed them all, and through them it would transform the galaxy. The Guardian World Proposal. We will establish an international coalition to oversee Eden 7's restoration and petition the Galactic Council for formal protection status. Sophie smiled. "Then we have an agreement. I will present this to the Council within the week. In the meantime, Captain, you should begin recruiting your guardians." The next 4 days passed in tense silence. Martinez's ship remained in orbit waiting. The horizon maintained position between the corporate vessel and the planet. On Eden 7's surface, the bacteria spread through the soil, invisible but transformative. When Ambassador Blake's ship finally arrived, Jake felt both relief and anxiety. Their fate and Eden 7's future would soon be decided. "So we make a choice," Jake said. "Do we tell Earth that we found a valuable planet ready for exploitation, or do we tell them we found a responsibility, a chance to prove humanity can give life instead of just taking it?" The 6 of them stood in the stone circle as Eden 7's sun climbed higher in the perfect blue sky. Around them, the dead world waited patiently. It had waited thousands of years already. It could wait a little longer for humans to decide what kind of species they wanted to be. But when he closed his eyes, he could still see the vision. He could still feel the weight of the ancient choice. And somehow, deep in his mind where the dream had touched him, he knew things he should not know, things about this planet that no human had ever learned. Something had changed inside him during the night, something profound and irreversible. Eden 7 had begun to transform him into what it needed him to be. A guardian,